This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to a 226th session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Duccio Cardelli. Duccio is the founding partner of Ant Studio Architects, an architecture and urban design studio with offices in Paris, Shanghai and Saudi Arabia. 15 years ago, Ant Studio was just an idea, a wish shared by Duccio and Ning Wang, his partner. After spending 15 years at the internationally renowned Christian de Portzamparc Pritzker Prize winner in 1994, Duccio co-founded Ant Studio Paris in 2014, soon followed by the Shanghai office. Since then, the firm has grown through projects around the world, collaborating with top international and local experts. Duccio, thank you so much for coming to the show. I hope I did a good intro, but why don't you introduce yourself with your own words?
It's good intro. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to do the podcast. So yes, as you said, I've been working for 15 years and learning in a certain way in this office named Christian de Portzamparc, which is the French architect, the first French architect who won the Pritzker Prize, which is the highest prize that can you win in architecture. And so I've been working for him for 15 years, learning, and then it's there that I met my actual partner, Wan Ning, Chinese, and in the office in Paris. We were working together for almost 10 years until when, as you said, we were on a coffee table in Paris and we said, oh, come on, I think it's the moment to try to have our own firm. And then this happened. I mean, after a little while, I resigned. I opened the firm in Paris and then Shanghai, and then after a little while, even Huan Ning resigned and take the lead of the team in Shanghai. So that was almost 13 years ago, and then afterwards we opened the office now we open the office in Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, and now in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And because we really believe we always go in places where we think that we have something to say in architecture and something to bring our experience, of course, all the time connected to the locals, all the time connected to local architecture, to a local partner, because we are not there to teach, we are there to learn and to share our experience.
You have a very strong foundation, university in Florence. Obviously, you went to École d'Architecture in Paris, and also working with like the thought leader during the time back in the 90s and the early 80s. How would you describe your current philosophy and your approach, and how do you define architecture?
Our philosophy nowadays, of course, is a philosophy that is based on how the architecture should embrace as much as possible the needs of people who are using architecture or urbanism. In order to embrace this, how we can work on the identity of the places, because we think that most of the time we lose the identity of the place. It means that we do projects, projects are done with no specific identity of the place and no specific identity of the culture, respectful of the culture where we built. And this is something that we really try to work a lot when the client give us confidence, because sometimes it's not that easy because there are economic issues, etc. So this is not always possible. But when it's possible, we really try to adapt as much as possible our project to the local and to the local style of life. So to enroute as much as possible the project in the place where we're building it, and at the same time to show how the project could be a new modern way to make evolve the society in a certain way. The principle is that when we did the project in Lhasa in Tibet, or the project that we did in Chengdu or in Shanghai or even in Saudi now, all the projects for our point of view can be just there. The project that we did in Lhasa, you cannot move it elsewhere because it's too connected to the Lhasa architecture style. And then of course we modernize it, but we really rooted very deeply. And the project that we did in Yangtze River was the same. It's a project that we won many prices as the project in Lhasa and the project in Chengdu because of this, because we won like the platinum lead certification that is given to not many buildings in entire China. And we won it because it's not just a project that is done following recycled materials, ecology. It's not just this, it promotes local culture. And this is what we did. And we really promote, we re-promote a new style to interpret it this industrial site, and then has been really appreciated. And then this is a bit our philosophy. Our philosophy, so it's how we can increase the pleasure of going in a building, and at the same time that you feel the building is your own building. How can you increase the fact that this building is really connected to all what is around, and it's not just all the time an ovni, a completely crazy building that sometimes is necessary in architecture. I'm not saying that it's not necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to be completely out of the codes and create something completely crazy in a place that doesn't respect nothing on the place, but it's because it creates like a landmark. It's important this, but we cannot just build landmark. Sometimes we have to, and then there's different way to build landmark. Sometimes you can build a landmark respecting the local culture and creating something really connected. Sometimes you can bring a landmark creating a completely crazy building. And so for the moment, we are more like in the one respecting the local culture. And in our approach for urbanism, we learn a lot, I must say, from Christian de Porzampar, and we learn a lot about how the spaces has to be sensible. I'm Italian. I grew up in Florence, so which is a city that have a very specific public spaces, and then this kind of proportion that is in Florence that I met in Italy, Rome, and Venice, and Milan. I try to propose this proportion in a certain way, even in projects that we do in China. Of course, respectfully of the China code, but eventually this kind of limited spaces, and in order to create this kind of cocoon space, has been liked a lot in China, and so we won a lot of prizes for urbanism, and we're having right now two major urban planning that are in construction, and where we experience a bit our approach to this. So the sensibility of the spaces for us is very important, and the identity, cultural, and it's very important as well.
I love and enjoy to listen to you, to be honest. And while you talk, I had a lot of ideas. On the one hand, we have this landmark attitude. I would even go that far to say it is sometimes ego-driven, putting the architectural design and building and construction into the nucleus of the entire project. That's probably one extreme when we talk about those big landmarks and maybe stages. On the other hand, you mentioned the local humble attitude a little bit, to embrace and to be part of it and to be very inclusive, which you say right now is definitely rather your philosophy. How do you balance those two, and knowing that you can create like an overkill of a construction sometimes, but it should be extraordinary, but subtle in a way? And what are the ingredients when you start with a thought process? I mean, we do see the final product. It's beautiful, it's crazy, it's impressive, but it's not like, okay, some building blocks and some tools here and some tools there, and then we have it. It's where your creative mind comes in. And again, going back to your experience, going back to your education, it's a lot of thinking, maybe even going for a walk and understanding the culture and reading books, maybe sometimes even novels, to understand what are we actually talking about. Is that my idea, or is that correct? Or how do you approach those elements?
Yeah, I mean, imagine that for the project that we did it's a good question, huh? Because it is really the core of the question is, how we start a project. Start a project in particular from our approach, which has to be as much as possible connected to local. We have to know the local. So sometime, like in all the projects that when we won prizes, we've been there. We hang around, we went around, we make interviews with the local population in order to understand what are their expectations as well. This mainly for the urban planning. For the architecture, imagine for the project that we did in Lhasa, which is a museum hosting one of the largest collection for Tanka art. Tanka art is the sacred art for Buddhism. We didn't know almost nothing about it. And so we went to Lhasa, we went in a monastery. And in the monastery, we understood the composition of the monastery, how the monastery are organized, because this was our inspiration for our building, for the spaces. The spaces are organized like a bit a monastery, without being a monastery, but there is a logic of the organization because since the building hosts sacred art, we should have something that respect a bit the building itself and how the sacred art is put inside of the building. So the building, we wanted to be connected to a monastery in a certain way. And then we've been staying with a monk. We understand how the Tanka artwork has to be organized inside of the building. We make all the interiors and all the museography as well. Because there is the tanka, imagine that each tanka is like what is the statue of Virgin Mary. So are venerated. People sit there and make some meditation in front of it or make some prayers. So each one of them, it's sacred element. So there is a very specific composition. This we learn in the monastery. So and then when we did the project, completely different thing. We made the project in Chengdu. We said how we can make a project in Chengdu that is really rooted in Chengdu, and we found that this ancient technique of connection of wood. And then we use this ancient technique to connection of wood typical of Chengdu. We use the bamboo wood, which is typical for the Sichuan province of Chengdu. And then we make the entire building connected to this ancient technique of incrustation of wood. Plus, the site itself inspired us because we want to have a building very elevated from the site, because we want to leave like the lecture of the site that's very soft hills. We didn't want to, we want to be very a bit light building. So the site inspired us. So how we do is this: we make a research. We make a research of the local culture, books, yes, big time. Like the project that we're doing now in Saudi Arabia, I've been bought, I don't know how many, 10 of books, a lot of books talking about the history of Saudi Arabia, the culture of Saudi Arabia, what is a Musharabiyah, what is the order, and then we learn a lot about the wind towers, which is this ancient technique coming from Persia and in the more than 2,000 years ago. It has been used even by Romans after Greeks anyway. And this technique that kind of create a cool system of a cooling system for the air, and then we just stay there, no entertaining, nothing. As soon as done, it's done. And so we use this. We use this in our project in Saudi Arabia. In a lot of the project, we are putting these elements, which the technique is ancestral, but at the same time, we all the time treat this element as a very modern element because it has to represent the local culture, but at the same time, the vision toward the future. So we use a lot of the program that we use to design are all the grasshopper. We use the parametric architecture. But at the same time, we don't want to be imprisoned by the excessive modernity. That sometimes, for our point of view at least, it's sometimes can be too much. So we really want all the time to be connected. In order to be connected, it's a research that we do and a pure feeling on the site when we go. Imagine sometime like I remember still that when I used to work for my previous employer, we designed some acoustic panels. Imagine acoustic panels in a Philharmonic house, and eventually the design of the acoustic panels came from a design that I did. I was still internship at the time. Imagine, and where I found the design on a painting. and a modern painting. I went to a museum. I found these lines very interesting. I proposed this in the modern in the design of the panels. The architect approved it, and then so this can be the process. The inspiration can come, as you said, from a novel, from a vision, but eventually it's always very important to spend time on the site. And if sometimes you don't have the time to do it because it happens, contests that go super fast, etc. This is why we always have a local partner who tell us the story of the site, and we try to understand from him.
It sounds cognitively very challenging. And it sounds like you might require to go into a meditative thought process to make sure you are deleting your memory in a way from past projects, which might subconsciously still bias you, and you want to start from scratch because that's something totally new and the context is super different. And on the other hand, you need to act quite quickly. You need to, be competitive in a way. As you say, you have probably an RFP and you need to propose something which then is also economically viable. Apart from that, when you say especially you don't have sometimes that much of time, how do you sometimes make sure, do you have some techniques or some tactics when you say okay, I need to go into, I don't know, into a cave right now and really stop thinking about the past month, the past weeks, and now I need to go all in this new concept, into this new world, into this new culture, and to really change my glasses in my head and think like a Buddhist, for example.
But I mean, for the Buddhist project, I don't know how could it be done without being there, to be honest, because it was very, very specific. Then other project, of course, after almost 30 years of architecture, you start to learn. You learn from things that you can see even from TV or from a video, etc. You can learn things. You can still have a feeling. Sometimes projects are going too fast, and so we have to create something very fast. We search on the internet, we search what could be the tendency, we search what can be the important things connected to the local culture. I mean, if you consider before internet and now, before internet, it was completely difficult. Now, internet can give you an access to a lot of information if you search well, and then without talking about AI, because AI can give you even more now. So you can have really an approach, a good approach for a site that you never saw. So this internet and AI give a help to this. Then again, talking to a local partner give a help. We always have a local partner when we do, and we discuss with him what do you think about this and that, and then cleaning up the mind. Yeah, I mean, we have an approach. The approach is ours. It's always a bit the same. We always try to make a building a building that create curiosity in the people. When we do architecture, when we do urbanism, I'm sorry, we always think how I want to make people experience a walk inside of the road. So what I do, I put in the road. If I do this, I would do this everywhere. The approach is all the time the same. Then it will adapt it to the local code, to the local urbanistic code, to the local culture. They need to see something, they need to see different. You try to adapt it to anthropologically to the people who live in there. And this, sometimes we made a mistakes, of course, because sometimes we don't have the time to do it. But when we can, we always try to do it, even by a research on internet to understand. And then in our firm here, we have kind of a lot of nationalities working with us. So we won a project in Poland for a train station, and then we have a local partner, and we have a Polish person working with us, and then we have people living working with us from Saudi Arabia and from Vietnam. So we always have people working with us that give us already a bit of hint about what we should be done there. It was not easy to kind of have our own approach for architecture after 15 years spent in this previous firm that has a very strong approach from architecture for urbanism. But eventually we get inspired a lot from this Portland Park office. But at the same time, we have found our own kind of way of being urbanistic, urban planner and architect. I think we are still finding our way because it's not something fixed, of course, but our principles are fixed. This, yes, the identity it will be always be there. Finding the right identity, because when you go in a neighborhood, it's very important that you feel the neighborhood is your own neighborhood. If you live in a neighborhood, you have to be proud of your neighborhood. You have to feel that this is like a glove around you. You have to, and there's a lot of studies talking about this. Very interesting that the perfect neighborhood is around a maximum 5,000 families, and because this creates really a feeling of neighborhood. And then in the neighborhood, it's a space. It's a empty space. It's a field space, the buildings, how the buildings should talk to each other, and how the space is described. This is all the time the same. We always have this approach. And even when we do architecture, we always try to imagine a plan as a process. I go in a place, then in a room, and then from this room, my attention is catch by something else. I want to keep going, in particular when we do hotels or when we do commercial centers, is always this. We always trying to solicit them to keep the curiosity of the person who will go there very high in order to create this movement inside. And this is all the time the same approach. We do all the time the same thing, but of course adapted to the program, adapted to the local, and so all the project looks different, but the approach is all the time the same.
Architecture as a vehicle to create better community feeling and to allow local communities to thrive. And you mentioned something very nice about the perfect community size from thousands of years ago. And we have created mega cities only like a couple of 10, 20, maybe 50 years ago. And we as human beings, we have the tendency to live in mega cities and actually feel lonely. And you are saying that you are able to create those spaces to create smaller communities again, to make people thrive in such communities. Do you see a certain difference because you're based in Paris and your most of your main projects, the last ones, are either in Asia or in the Middle East? Do you see a divergence regarding old Western world and Asia and Saudi Arabia? Is it, frankly speaking, mainly a budget thing that people are less inclined in Europe to spend this amount of money? Or do you see it's also a mindset where you say, okay, this is actually people still have a vision and understand the importance of such projects?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Europe, there is these possibilities for this mega project, like new cities or new neighborhood in places where historically happened something that allows this now. China got the China Revolution. There's a lot of places that have been destroyed. They destroy a lot of their own culture in order to create a new one. And then eventually now they're searching back this culture. And then it's a huge place. They have a huge country. They have a lot of this potential. They have money to do these projects. Some are private, some are public. And then, so they had this possibility. They searched for urban planners. We won the contest, I'm sorry. And then, so we are developing. Why China? Because in China, the condition political, historical and economical allow it. In Saudi Arabia, it's the same. Saudi Arabia, it is a kind of a brand new country in a certain way, speaking, since 6 years ago? And it happened kind of silent revolution, and not even very silent in a certain way, but not with violence. It's economic revolution, a vision revolution that now change entirely the country and open it in complete. Before was a completely enclosed country. Now it become an extremely welcome country. Most of the people don't even know that the country is no more what it used to be. Women can do a regular life, access to instruction, access to work, access to health system, and there's no more zero obligation on the way of dressing. So now, of course, you go in Saudi Arabia, there's still a lot of women that are entirely covered, but it's a choice. They have the choice. Before they didn't. Now they have the choice. If the family still stay in the old culture, which is, I completely understand it. I was talking with one of this woman and she said, yes, I keep this because for me, removing this, it's like getting naked. Because they're so used to this. I can understand this. It takes time to have a modification of the mindset that you have, but still, you give the freedom, and this is for me is very important. This is why that we invest in going there because we believe there is a real way to create new identity, new project. They are building a lot. The population will increase. They plan to have to double the population in the next 15 years. So of course they need architect, they need urban planner, they need a lot of bunch of other consultants. And so yes, Vietnam, because again, there is a very good condition in Vietnam now, economical, it's standing good. It's a good place now to go. And then we have our new partner, Kitchen, who is taking part of our firm now, and he used to work. We used to work together in a lot of projects that we did in China, and now he's Vietnamese, to open a branch of a studio in Ho Chi Minh, and so we are going to be there because we know that we have still something to say. Again, so where we go is always a mixed. I will never go to England. I will never go to Germany. At least I'm invited for some specific mysterious reason, but because they have very good architects, they have a lot of England, or I can continue Denmark or Mexico even. I mean, they have already a kind of a stabilized situation in politics, stabilize economy. So the building, the cities, you have small modification you do, but you don't do a new city. You don't even have the space to do it. I mean, even if you could, the investment, etc., is too high. Nobody does this kind of things now. What has been done in Brazil for Brasilia was like a long time ago. Now they could not do this anymore. In China, they are doing this. They are doing this like they're building the satellite cities around Beijing. We are building one of them, by the way, and because they decided that Beijing is too crowded, we have to move some administration outside. Or we are working now in Indonesia, and Indonesia we went there because again, even there, they decided that Jakarta was too crowded. Let's move the capital, or at least all the administration, in the Borneo Island for a new capital. Well, wow. So this kind of stuff happening in very specific places, not everywhere. Cannot happen everywhere. And so, yes, when this happens, we try to be all the time attentive and to be there.
Do you see the same trend, what we saw in Dubai, regarding the blueprint of creating extraordinary buildings and thought-provoking architecture? And I take, for example, the Burj Al Arab as an example, to create a landmark to attract tourists, to start getting more and more people in, and then going from there. That was, I think, like the original idea with it. Do you see the same pattern happening in Saudi Arabia and maybe even in China?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, I mean, in particular, Saudi Arabia, they have China. It's different because China has been done already. Then consider that Dubai is a very specific example because it's a city state in a certain way, and all the Emirates are so small and so uh, dense that it's very hard to compare to Saudi Arabia and China, which are The size is the size of a continent, in particular China. And Saudi Arabia too is very big. So, but the approach that Saudi Arabia is having now, it is similar. So it means that in order to attract investment, to attract new inhabitant, etc., you have to change the mindset that people has on Saudi Arabia, and they're doing in, of course, changing the way of living, but then you have to have a way to present your country in a certain way. So Saudi Arabia, they have this, I think, very great idea to present the country through crazy project, crazy like unthinkable until now, like the line or other project that they're doing now. They are unthinkable. Then maybe they won't realize exactly as they thought at the beginning. Maybe there will be a bit of change. It's not important eventually, because eventually it was a marketing operation, very important, that they did. And it's the same as Burj Khalifa of Dubai. Like now, Burj Khalifa of Dubai, yes, but Saudi Arabia will have in Jeddah the Kingdom Tower that will be taller. So it's always this necessity. And then Riyadh is starting already now the 2 miles tower. So yeah, so it's definitely Saudi Arabia are doing this, and in order to do the same principle, but based on the continent. And another thing they are doing in Saudi Arabia now is the environment. They are creating a mega park in the middle of Riyadh, where it used to be an airport, and they could have done housing, etc. No, eventually do a park extremely well done. And so they're very, very careful on the park. They're very careful about the general temperature of course, Saudi Arabia, which is very, very high. So they're having entire factories producing trees. To put trees there, they have like the plan to plant something like I don't know how many million of trees from now to 2030. So they have and so they give an announcement, public announcement, and this public announcement is heard by us as professional, as architect, engineering, or that okay, let's go to see, and then by people who wants to invest there, investors, so who say, oh, maybe the price of the housing is raising up, so maybe it's the right place to invest, and then people who wants to simply go there to live. So this is augmentation that we were talking before of the population comes from this. People who are international who go there because it's good. Because but it's not really this. The augmentation is like other communities, surrounding communities. They are sending people who are there to build the new Saudi Arabia, people who are there to live. So this will increase the population quite a lot. China is different because they had this, but the procedure was completely different. China comes from the necessity to kind of correct a past that was very haunting in the entire country, a past of colonies, a past of opium war, a past of that it was not there has to be in a certain way removed in a certain way, and so this kind of find again the being pride of being Chinese. This was the most important thing that Mao started, and then eventually afterwards all the following up president. And so, and they are doing it because now it's one of the biggest economy in the world. And then, but it's a different. They're not searching. They're searching less symbols because you think now they're searching more how we could re-find our old heritage, how we can reproduce this heritage. Then, of course, you have a tower in Shanghai. Then all the cities are very different. They have a lot of modernity, but the procedure, I think, is very different. They don't need to attract people. The economy attract people. Simple. Then you have a lot of people who wants to go to China or used to go. Now it's period a bit complex in China. Even our office has to be redimensioned a bit because we have less opportunities. There are less projects now. It's a period like this. They will change. It's a country with a huge opportunity still. So we're still very eager to have new project and maybe new is a new line that has to be redefined. Even in France, it's the same. I mean, in France, before was like housing, 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 less big housing. Now we don't do this much anymore. The law is changed, the situation is changed. So we do more like hotel, more student residency. It changed. So all the time, us as architects or urban planners, we have to adapt a bit. We have to kind of adapt and to, if it's possible, to anticipate a change that is going on in order to be ready for it. As now AI that is a new tool that has to be taken carefully because uh, cannot really reproduce the human fantasy in the human creation, at least for the moment. I cannot tell in 10 years because it's going very fast. Maybe in 10 years will be different. But now, for the moment, it's a tool that for us is simply a research tool. A research tool in order, and what we said before, sometimes they want us to make a concert in a new city in Saudi Arabia that I never been. So I cannot say all Saudi Arabia is the same because it's not. Of course, they are all the culture is similar, but it's not the same. So we have to understand what are the code for each cities, and this sometimes we don't have the time because like they want a concert from now to tomorrow. So we have to ask and search as much as we can, and this the new tool now are very helpful.
The element of water, because you just mentioned planting trees and eco-friendly elements. And I also thought back to Medellin in Colombia, which is a very success story regarding urban planning, and they planted a lot of trees and made the city very green. How do you see Saudi Arabia and the importance there to include the natural elements like water for cooling? And I also take here an example of the Nile River being one of the fundamental elements for Egypt, coming from sub-Saharan Africa even, and leading all its way to the Mediterranean. So the impact there, and also knowing that you have several projects which are built around water, I would like to know what this element for you, what importance that has in new projects in Saudi Arabia.
Water, it is the new gold, we say, no? So it is, we have to be careful. We have to be careful in not using too much water. Saudi Arabia in particular, because the temperature not allow to have too many fountains and too many wonderful green grass. So how is our approach? We don't put grass. We look what is the landscape existing. We try to deal with this. We deal with the plants that are not demanding too much water for all our the landscape that we do. And then concerning the consumption of water, we work quite a lot in the new vertical farming technology that exists since quite a long time, in particular in places like Holland, which is crazy to say one of the biggest exporter of vegetables in the world is Holland because they have all the vertical farming. And the vertical farming, I've been working with some of this company who produce this vertical farming. Is very interesting because you have a reduction of consumption of water per plant of 80%. So it's not small. Now I know that Saudi Arabia is moving toward vertical farming. Definitely what has to be done because Saudi Arabia wants to become independent as much as possible. It is already, but even more about the importation for some product that, of course, they don't have enough. And so the vertical farming is not just vertical farming. The winter gun farming it's booming. And this is good. It's go in the good direction because you need less water, much less water. It's a pure cycle utilization of water. All the evaporation of the plants that plants have of water is going toward the roof. The roof take back this evaporation and bring it back in the circle. So there is zero waste. And this is, for me, absolutely what should be done. Then, well, other problems that for sure the vertical farming at the moment, what is cultivating vertical farming soon often doesn't have as much taste as regular agriculture, but there are a lot of study about this, how we can found back the taste in the vertical farming. So eventually it not just in Saudi Arabia. We talk about Saudi Arabia because it's hot, but the excessive water waste that we have in our society, it should be taken care even in Italy, in France, in Germany, everywhere, and then and try to find a new way. And one of the biggest consumption of water is agriculture. So we have to be careful about this. And so the new way of agriculture for us is very important. So in Saudi Arabia, this, and then again, what we do in Saudi Arabia for the water is how we can be careful in not wasting water. So when they ask us to make an Arabian garden, of course, in Arabian garden, we have some water features, some fountain, but a very, very, very small intervention with not much water. And then again, we don't create a huge landscape of, even in our images, we never sell like a green grass perfect with a cow on it because we are in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't make any sense. So we can sell a green grass in Normandy if you want, but even in Florence, I would never do this because it's a very dry place very hot in the summertime, and the grass become most of the time very dry, so you need a lot of water. It's not the point now. We don't want to use water for decoration. We have to use water for something very useful, I think.
You started your own company and took this leap. Many people, they stay employed for many years, and it always takes some courage to say, you know what, you were already on top. You were already with, the best architect, and there was no basic needs to actually go and leave that. What motivated you to take this leap, and what challenges then did you also face on going from something maybe more stable to something less stable? Because you also have to create your own brand, you have to build up or make sure that people understand that you are the one using to work for that other company, creating like a stronger reputation and stuff, people trusting you. What was the motivation there?
But look, being working salary in a good company is a good job, as you said. You have a lot of good things. When you are on holiday, most of the time you are on holiday. You can almost say, you can put this automatic answer to your email, and who writes you say, sorry guys, I'm on holiday. When you have your own firm, you forget about it. You forget about the word holiday. The pure holiday doesn't exist anymore, because if a client call you in the middle of August, you answer the phone. If the client asks you to do something very fast, you feel that the client is a client, you do it. If you are on holiday, it's okay. If you're in the middle of the mountain, it's okay. You find, I go for my holidays, I always control how fast is the internet where I go. Because we always have someone working, either in our office in China or in Paris, or we have other production offices in Tunisia, in Lebanon. And so we always have someone ongoing, apart maybe the 25th of December. Well, but then in general, we always have someone ongoing. And so I need all the time to have a good internet. Why you do this? You do this because I think that after I've been spending for 13 years in this previous job I had, and I guess that was the moment. But I felt like this. I felt that I found finally the courage. I could have not have done this maybe 3 years before, because I still didn't develop the courage to do it. Because yes, as you said, it demands a lot of courage. A bit. Either you do it right away. You go out from school, you work for 1 or 2 years in different office, and then you're still a bit unconscious about the reality of the job. And you go, boom, you associate with other friends. I have a lot of people that I know did this. It's okay. Some of them are doing well, some a bit less, but yeah. But once you did, the hardest is what I did. I can tell you, it's very hard, because after all these years spent in a profile of working, in a typology of working, a typology of salary, etc., and then a typology of comfort, and then you get out, it's not easy. It was very hard, honestly, very hard to to break in a certain way even the emotional dependence that I had, because I mean, Christian de Borzapar, it is still someone very important for me uh, as person, because I was with him, I would say more than with my father. So eventually you have this emotional connection, which is not easy to break and to have the courage to go. But in a certain moment, when you feel it, you feel it. I felt it because I guess was my time to do it, and I found the right time. I felt that there was maybe clients could be interested, and then when you get out, in particular from an important firm as that one, where generally you arrive on a meeting, you have, I'm exaggerating, like the red carpet waiting for you. And then after you get out, even you say, but used to be, you used to be, it's gone. One day to another, complete change of life. Red carpet, no more. You have to put the carpet now. You're the one that have to put the carpet. So it's a completely change, but then you get used to it. And then, I mean, for me, the thing that I earn a lot in this is the freedom of choice. Freedom of choice that I want to start now. I'm looking to Algeria, and I'm looking to create a partnership there. I decide. I mean, me and my partner, Waning, but still, we discuss. We most of the time according, which is the good thing. With him, we kind of really find a way to collaborate, because it's not easy. We're two different persons, two different characters, two different culture. He's Chinese, I'm Italian, but we both met in the same place. So we have some good tips together. We always did well in design together, so it's good. He's an exceptional designer, I think. And so we are according, so we go. Let's try. Let's see what's going on. So in this, before it was like, when you are in a big firm, you have a procedure, which is good. You have to have it. You cannot just take a decision like this. You have to take a decision, then propose, then the committee decide, yes, no, but we'll see. And sometimes goes nowhere because of this. Now I have the freedom to go as much as I want. However, I have the stress that I didn't have before of will I have enough money to survive? And this is a life decision. It's not a small thing. I will never come back. I don't think so. Then never know life. But let's say I don't think so. I'm kind of no, moment are going down, moment are being better. It's an architecture firm, but yeah, I think it was a good decision. If I go back now, I would maybe have done it differently, but I would have done it. So yeah, but again, this is pure character. Some people need more freedom, some people need more rules, some people more stability, and all are good. We just have to find, well, what you want and what you want to be.
What are tips for someone who just graduated from the university with their architectural degree? What would you tell yourself or give yourself maybe an advice, or someone right now also? I mean, the world is different now. What do you think a young professional should take away from this podcast?
I think that a young student, it's important that um, they look around while they're still student, look around the situation, because some schools are better than others. I've been teaching in some schools. Some schools are purely theoretical, some schools are practical but not really connected to reality. So eventually, when students get out from university, I always found a bit of disconnection what is reality of the work of architect. I believe that most of the architecture school do not prepare the students to become architects. Maybe dreamers or theoretians, but not architect, which is a mix in between the two. I'm not saying that, but there is an equilibrium that has to be found. So I think that nowadays an architect and students should learn main thing, learn the right programs because as soon as you get out on the market, you have to be able to use the right programs. That could be Revit or ArchiCAD, all the programs, fundamental. Then your approach to architecture, it's important, but it depends. It depends because at the beginning, when you go in a firm, most of the time you have to be able to produce because we are maybe in a huge submission deadline, and we have to do this. So you have to be useful. In order to be useful, you have to know how to draw a stair. You know how to draw a bathroom. And this, most of the time, is not teach enough, at least in school. So they have this kind of three-dimensional space vision, but not very precise. And so sometimes it's like things that really doesn't work. So it's very important to understand what is the profession. And in order to know the profession, the best first is learning as much as possible the learning as much as possible the program, and then learning the past of architecture. That for us as an Italian, this is the theoretical part. It's extremely important. We have 5 exams about history of architecture, and I think 5 is not enough, should be 10. It's very important because when you understand the history of architecture, you understand the future of architecture, the present and the future. You can interpret it better, the future. Of course, you have to have new ideas, new perception, definitely. But there are some codes that you have to understand from the past, I think. And this is, as I told you at the beginning for our podcast, is our approach as well. So I think that students nowadays that are studying, it's important, like what is architecture, what is his thinking of architecture, start to really think himself. But then it depends, because if you are a student, so you have good contact, you can start an architecture firm right away. Architecture, it is based on what? An architecture firm is based on 40% is pure luck. The luck of meeting the right guy in the right place, and then they give you an opportunity, and then from this opportunity come another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and the 10th one, it's a project. But at the beginning, it's the luck to meet the right guy. This is the main thing, the luck. And then 50%, let's say another 40% is the contact connected to the luck. Then you have a 20%, are you a good architect or not? But this is the percentage, and I completely believe in this, because then when you are a good architect, yes, but it's important, definitely. But it's the vision is important. But sometimes the budget is so complicated that you don't have the possibility to create the gesture. You have to like at the box, because this is what it is. And then, of course, you look big firm, Zaha Hadid, you go, and of course you can gesture, you have things. Yeah, but the reality is that the 95% of the project in the world are not this. The 95% of the project that all the students will do one day are not this. But this is the part that a bit of that we have to be careful. You have to learn how to make the box that works well. I'm not saying that this is just this of architecture, but how can you reinvent maybe the box? You know what I mean? In how can be the cost of construction should be taken account in reality? Because then, I mean, of course you can make things like, but then you will never do it. At least you go in, I don't know, Zaha or other big firm the name is so important that they want them so much they can add an over budget on the construction. They know already if you take Zaha, it will be expensive. I'm paid Zaha, I can take another one. But the reality, again, the 95% of the project are not this one here. So you have to learn how to do maybe a bit of this, but you have to learn how to do the 95%.
The real and the strongest innovation sometimes or oftentimes happens with very strict constraints when the people are forced to rethink methods, maybe materials, or maybe processes, and do something with small tweaks, but then reinvent something fundamentally. Duccio, I really thank you for the conversation. I know your time is limited, and I want to express my gratitude because you gave us an interesting point of view and allowed me to learn a lot about architecture. You guided us through your early career, your strong education, and obviously your experience with, a thought leader in itself in your space. From there, you showed us what right now the trends are in Asia and also the strong approach in Saudi Arabia with the creation of new cities using architecture as a vehicle in order to define new communities, build new communities in a very human-centric approach. You also taught us very, very nicely about how your challenge and your motivation was regarding jumping into your own entrepreneurial journey, and that you felt it, that you said, okay, this was like the moment for you to jump. And finally, you gave us very good tips for also young professionals, for them to take away in order to be successful. And in a frank way, you also stated that you can't control your future. It's a lot of luck as well, and a lot of coincidences which just happen to be present in your life at a certain time. Is there anything else you would like to mention which we haven't touched upon with the audience?
If the audience are mostly students, good luck, guys. Nowadays, to be architect, you have to be very motivated, because AI will create a revolution. Still not going now, but it will create a revolution. We'll reduce the number of architects. We'll reduce the number of people who draw architecture, let's say that. So it will be, and then another thing now we have to. There's a change in particular in Europe about what kind of construction that we do. We start to look much more in restoration than new construction, which is good, I think. It's very good. So it's something that people has to put in their own mind. I think architecture still remain an amazing job. As you said before, of course, there are a lot of constraints, and sometimes you can find a new make architecture with the constraints. Definitely, definitely. We try to do this all the time, even we have a very low budget. Anyway, we try to do our best, but then the budget is what it is, and so we have to be attentive to this, in some project at least. And so I think that architecture is still an amazing job, but now demands more and more people who really believe in architecture in order to accept even some condition. Like I'm talking to this because in Italy, it is one of the countries who produce more architects a year, because we have so many schools of architecture, so many schools. That imagine that in Florence we have almost 15,000 students in just one school. Imagine that all the students in all the schools in Paris are 8,000, and they have like 7 schools. So we have a huge production. And then because architecture was like the job a bit like, I don't know what to do. You know what, I do architecture. It's not too difficult, etc. True, the study can be, you cannot compare to medicine to others, But I think that now the people who used to go and do architecture because they didn't know what to do, these kind of people should be more careful now in the choice. They should maybe choose something else, because architecture will become a job not that easy in the future. So we have to be careful and be really motivated in doing this job.
Perfect. I will put your contact information to the show notes, your website, so that people can reach out to you.
With pleasure. Thank you so much, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.